Welcome to Season 1 of Love First Homes. Your hosts, Heather Baker and Wade Isley, discuss owning and operating a small business, building a property management portfolio, growing a name in the real estate industry, and, most importantly, how to do it all with love. Enjoy!
Hello! Welcome to Love First Homes. I'm Heather.
That's right. It is our second episode. In episode 1, man, we had a great time. It was a ton of fun. We learned about Heather's story in real estate, just a touch about my story in real estate, how we came together, our mission, vision, core values. We learned about bird poop and margarine and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you got to go back and check that out if this is your first time listening to the podcast, because that one was a hoot. And I don't mean a hoot like a bird joke.
Yes, you do. You're known for dad
okay,
jokes.
maybe I do.
Of course you mean it as a bird joke.
That is my thing.
I can't wait for the audience to get to experience full dad joke Wade. It's going to happen.
I think so. We're at some point we'll have a whole podcast of just dad jokes. And in that podcast, I will tell the father of all jokes.
Ooh, now I want that podcast to happen.
There we go.
You should be a content creator.
We'll make
You're
it happen
good at this.
some point. Oh, wow.
You're welcome.
Thank
you. Okay. I'm going to ask you questions, and then we're going to flow back and forth. So you know how it goes. I've got...
Okay. Yeah, we'll give some answers and maybe lead into some follow-up discussion. This sounds like a good podcast. It's going to
be a podcast. It'll be crazy. How did the idea for Love First Homes come about? Bam.
Okay. Love First Homes. How did it come about? Well, the name itself we dove into in the last podcast. It was a labor services company that I had at the start of the pandemic because I was broke and couldn't afford the home I was living in.
No,
I don't even know if I told you this, Heather. I was working as a pastor at the time, and I didn't make any money because pastors don't make a lot of money unless they have a big church, which, whatever. I didn't have a big church, and I couldn't pay my bills. It was getting so expensive. And this was before inflation and everything. This was just at the start of it. And so my wife was working, I was working. I started working on the side, doing some handyman stuff, doing some landscaping, moving, all sorts of stuff. So that's where the name kind of originated from, beyond what we talked about in the last episode. But where did it come, where we came together, you and I, Heather, is that last spring, the spring of 2023, at our 9-to-5 workplace where we're coworkers, we did what was called affinity group. I don't know if you remember this, affinity groups. So we have a monthly hangout and we get together and talk about things that we're passionate about. And Heather and I really connected about real estate and we really enjoyed it. And so we started having some calls and just, talking about, philosophies of real estate and things that we thought. And it kind of just led into this beautiful thing and partnership where you live in Nevada and I live in Idaho. And we have an operator and we have a marketer, and it's just working. It's just coming together and working really well. Not everybody understands it. When I tell my family, they're like, what do you mean she's in Nevada? How is she going to come and paint the walls? How is she going to do this? No, that's not what she does. She's a marketer. And I'm not a marketer at all. That's not my thing. I'm not good at it. And so Heather, big props to you for making this podcast happen, for all the educational content that you're providing access for people. That's really your brainchild. So we really both enjoyed real estate. And honestly, Heather and I, I would like to say you're a kind person. I try to be a kind person. You're a loving person. I try to be a loving person. We have very similar mission, vision, and core values personally. And so, yeah, that's really how it came about. In terms of our partnership and wanting to move into real estate. We had no clue, though, what we were wanting to do with it. And I would say now we
100%. And I just have to add, okay, firstly, Wade is one of the best men you'll ever meet in your entire life. So to those of you listening, you better prioritize at some point engaging so you get to talk to Wade. But also, you're welcome. The way that building a business happens when you're doing it with someone by your side is such a growth experience. We're still figuring it out, so don't quote me as an expert yet, but I hope in 5 years we can look back on these podcasts and laugh at ourselves and realize how much stuff we were going through together, because understanding the dynamic of another person and what they expect of you and what they expect of themselves and how much work you put on your plate. And when you're like figuring out how to split profits. These are all things Wade and I are still figuring out together. But I think part of the beauty of this podcast is we're going to have a literal recording of what each of those steps looks like. And Wade just telling you how Love First Homes, Love First Labor Services started, how it morphed into Love First Homes, what we contribute to Love First Homes, and how important it is to really get to know like your business partner. And I think more important than how you make a profit at the start of the business is how you interact with each other, how you interact with the world, and the type of people that you are if you can enjoy your business partner. Random side note, I just wanted to say it's so cool to get to work with someone who you love, respect, and get to grow from while you're going through this journey of entrepreneurship.
Well, and there's a lot of risks with having partnership, right? You're putting your relationship on the line, your friendship on the line. You're not going to get all the profits, right? But when you can make a synergetic relationship, I think that's the right word, synergetic. Pulling out my dictionary today. Wow. When you have a relationship like that, it makes it so much more fun than doing it alone, right? So much more fun. It's like this book right here. This is a good example of it. This 10X is easier than 2X. We'll talk about this later. But Dan Sullivan is a leadership coach, but I don't think he likes writing books because I don't think he's ever written his own books. But Dr. Benjamin Hardy is really good at writing books, but he doesn't have the content necessarily of what to write in the books. So they've created a relationship together where Dr. Hardy writes the books of Dan Sullivan's content, right? And everybody wins. That's the thing. Nobody has to lose. Everybody thinks you always have to have somebody win and somebody lose. But in our partnership between me and you, Heather, and in how we want to conduct business, we want everyone to win. So that's a really key piece of a partnership. Not everybody should be your partner, and not everybody is cut out to have a partnership. Man, if you have the right partner, it is so much more fun.
100%. Doing a podcast with you brings so much joy to my day. Like, I want to do this. I'm on vacation right now, and I'm like, I'm going to set this side of time because this time aside.
Oh, that's good.
Because I want to. Of course, you can't be in necessarily survival mode to want to start a business. You need to be in a space where you feel pretty safe, but it's so worth it. So if you're listening and you're interested and you have someone in mind who you think would be a good partner, just start to get to know them, right? We started talking about this over 6 months ago, and it took time for us to decide that it would be the right fit. And we also discussed how are we going to do financial components? Like, are we going to split it 50-50? Are we going to split it based on investment status? Like, this is all a journey that you have to learn together. We still don't have all the answers, but with time, we'll have more and more, and you can come along with us.
Well, and the biggest thing for me is when it finally clicked. My wife Kira, she said, Heather is a great person and she's not going to do anything to hurt you.
Aww.
If you have any check in your mind that your partner, if you can't say that about your partner with 100% certainty, they're not the right partner.
Really
they're
good
not.
point.
I hate to say it, but if you can't trust them 100%, then you need to make sure that you protect yourself, whether that's how you structure it, whether that's not having a partnership at all. That's probably, we don't give financial advice, we just give education. I would probably then at that point reach out to maybe a lawyer to help you draft up what partnership documents could look like. And that would be
which
my
we still need to do.
So
we'll let you know in an upcoming podcast what that process looks like, to be completely transparent.
Yeah,
it will be. And I think to also have the lens that we get to talk about it with other people who maybe just went through that process or are still going through that process. If you've already gone through that process and you stumble on our content, feel free to provide advice to us. We are here to receive your wisdom. So we really appreciate that.
Please.
Yes,
we need your help.
Please. Okay, Wade, you foreshadowed beautifully that we have more of a structure to what we want to do with our business now than we did even a month ago, which is beautiful. I wanted to know if you could do a brief kind of overview. This is a little off script too, so if you need a second to reset, but like a brief little overview of this beautiful concept you came up with, how you came up with it too, because I believe it may have came from some prayer, which I think is very incredible, and then segueing into what we're doing right now and and the type of properties and things that we're looking to work with at present.
Yeah. So to start off with the phases of the business, a while back ago, I want to say it was about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, what we were looking at doing, there was nothing special about it other than us. We were the only special parts of it. And so it was like, man, Heather and I are high performers in our 9-to-5s. We work for a cutting edge media company. Why are we just looking to do something normal or average? And I was like, man, if that's all we're going to do, we're probably not doing it right. So I was praying every morning. I have a prayer and Bible study quiet time. And I was praying, and there was a devotional about that God is not necessarily looking for the results. He's looking for our heart in it. And I realized what was missing was the heart, right? Was the love. And so in a moment I said, okay, yes, we're gonna put the heart into it, and that's what's gonna set it over the edge. Because anybody can invest in real estate. Literally anybody. Anybody can buy it, anybody can sell it, anybody can flip homes. The difference is that we incorporate love, and we are going to create a community about it. So this whole picture came into mind, and maybe we need to create some like bonus content where we can map it out for people. I love that. But where people who need to sell their homes because they're in a bad spot, that we would come and buy their homes, that we would share a portion of the revenue with them from the fix and flip, that eventually it would lead into us taking them, if they wanted to, and plugging them into apartment housing that was affordable and that had an educational program attached to it that led them to home ownership and a healthy family and just, career planning, financial planning, health and wellness programming that would lead them to buying their first home. Because statistics show that if you have a stable career, if you have a healthy family, and you have a stable home, something that you own, the statistics are off the chart of how much more successful your family and you will be. So get them into a home, eventually lead them to buying multiple homes, maybe a home every 2 years. At some point, we'll talk about that as a personal finance strategy. Again, we're not financial advisors, but as education, that's a path that I'm on right now, is that we are on a path to buy 5 homes over the next 10 years. And we rent out each home that we owned and lived in previously, because conventional loan programs allow every 2 years for you to get low or 0% down programs open to you. And we talked a little bit last episode about maybe some programs to stay away from if you're looking for that flexibility, right? USDA, FHA, as much as you can to stick to a conventional loan program.
Also, community development loans. Just be careful when you're looking at them. Yes.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Read the fine print. But that they would, in their personal finances, be led down a path to retirement, right? Imagine what it would look like. And Heather, imagination's key for us. If we just close our eyes real quick and think about what would it look like if you owned 5 homes, you owed nothing on them, and they were bringing in, let's say, minimum $1,200 a month. Whoa. $6,000 of income every month, and you owe nothing. That's retirement right there.
So exciting. Also, you did that math so quickly.
And
you're welcome.
Well, thank you. I was an athlete in high school. I went to a state competition and got creamed. So
ended way sadder than I thought I was.
It was sad, but I won the local regional competition. Cool. Anyways, so eventually owning 5 homes, your primary residence, and 4 rentals being paid off. So my math was a little bit off there. It would be $4,800 a month.
That's why you got
you only got 4 rental income streams. Forgive me. There we go. That's right. No. Ouch. And then eventually that would lead to being able to invest in real estate funding. So guys, that's the long-term vision. Those are the phases. But really, what does that lead us to right now in phase 1? That light's back. Last episode, I had the light on my face. It's back again. Wow.
Natural skincare.
I don't know what skincare products I use. Wow. But it really leads into phase 1, which is us buying and flipping homes, right? We want to create value. That's every business. The key part of it is that it creates value of something. So for us, right, we see where I live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, North Idaho, there is a lack of housing. They can't build houses fast enough. So as houses are starting to wear down, right? My house that I live in is 95 years old. 5 years ago, it was ugly. It should have been torn down. It was so ugly. And it was getting unsafe. So they had somebody come in and they completely redid everything. This was before I bought it. Completely redid everything. And now, without having to build a completely new home, they went through and brought this back onto the market. So it helps solve a problem, right? They brought value to it. So for us, what kind of properties are we looking to fix and flip? And maybe you have one that you're looking to sell. We'd love to know. We'd love to reach out to you and see if maybe it's a fit of buying
Which
something from you.
segue,
You never
if
know.
you do want
So
us to look at your property, feel free to either drop us a comment. You can reach out to us on Instagram at, actually I'm saying this and I need to figure out our handle. And then there's also an email that you're welcome to reach out to. It is heatherimagined@gmail.com. At some point, we'll probably have one for Love First Homes, but for now,
we'll
send
have
it
nice
there.
ones.
Okay, please continue, Wade.
So what kind of properties are we hoping to work with, right? We're going to start right now, because we're new into this, with small homes. Small homes have less risk. They are a higher chance of being bought because they're a lower price range. So you're getting first-time home buyers. You might be getting some retirees, some small families, different things like that. So we're looking at, minimum 2-bed, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet is kind of, those are really easy and quick to do. Eventually we will move bigger because there's a lot more money as you move bigger, but there's also a lot more risk, right? Then you're getting into people, who are making a lot of money. Your customer base of who's buying the homes shrinks because they have to have a lot more money available to buy a $600,000 home compared to a $350,000 home. So, some other things that we're looking after, we're looking for 1 to 4 units. And really what that is multifamily is awesome if you have rentals, right? If you're using it as a rental, because if one person is vacant for a while, you're still getting income. Whereas with a single family home, it's one and done. Somebody's in there or somebody's not. With a triplex, a quadruplex, even a small apartment complex, if somebody is not there, you still have other people that are renting that are making up. And you can also look at doing something like we talked about in the last episode, where you Airbnb part of it or VRBO it, and have, actually one of those doesn't allow you to do that. I can't remember if it's VRBO
I didn't realize
or
that.
Airbnb, but you'll have to look.
I think it's VRBO.
Yeah.
Still don't quote me, but
I think they're a little bit more picky. Yeah, read the fine print. So read the fine print. But yeah, 1 to 4 units. One of the things that we're going to talk a lot about on this show is ARV, or turnkey value. That's the after repair value. So once you've done everything and gotten it to a spot where it's a turnkey home, you turn the key and you could live in it and it's nice, right? That would be the value of it at that point. We want to make sure that our after repair value, or our turnkey, does not exceed what's called the FHA cap. So every county in America has an FHA cap, and that FHA cap is used for the USDA loans, for the FHA loans, for probably the community assistance loans. So what you'll want to do is look up, what is the FHA cap in my county? And it will tell you what the FHA cap is for a single family home, for a duplex, triplex, quadruplex, and beyond. Okay. I would definitely do that, because if you get above that, here's what happens, right? If I'm $1 above that, well, now all the people that are using the USDA, FHA, and community-based loans, they can't buy the house. They're not eligible because they need those down payment assistance programs. And now the house is priced too high and doesn't meet it. So for our area here in Kootenai County, Idaho, where Coeur d'Alene is, it's $572,000, I believe. Right in there. It might be 576. 572,000. Isn't that high? Oh. I remember when I bought my first house at $245,000, and I thought I was paying way too much, and now it's worth $450,000.
Well, there's the magic of inflation and having an asset that is going to go up with time. Yeah. One of the many things.
Right? Real estate is inflation proof. Well, it's inflation proof if you're in it. If you're not in it, it becomes so much harder to get into it.
Well, and also it's an inflation-proof long-term. If you get a house a year, 2, even sometimes 3 years before, or much longer. Wade, you gave me a stat actually last time we met. I think I think it was you who said for a lot of homes at present, for you to, on a typical loan, like actually start making money on your primary home where you're going to sell it, it takes X amount of
Yeah.
years. I don't remember how many years and I don't want to misquote it, but it takes time.
Okay. It does take time. So what the conversation was is a 30-year mortgage
Okay, yeah,
versus a
yeah.
15-year mortgage. And when does your principal payment, like what percentage of your payment goes to principal
Okay.
versus interest, right? So on a conventional 30-year loan, and it depends on the interest rate, but at the time when I was looking at it, it was year 17. So
So low.
17 years into the 30-year loan that the interest was then at that point less a percentage of the payment than the
God.
principal. Okay. You're 17. On a 15-year mortgage, it was month 7. Month, not year, month 7. And so here's really what that means. A 15-year mortgage is great if you
Mhm.
can afford it, but it also has a downside. The monthly payment, or as my father-in-law likes to say, the monthly nut that you have to meet is higher than a 30-year. With a 30-year, you can always get that and then put extra, into your payment every month. And then if something happens, you're okay. With a 15-year, right, you have to pay the payment and it's going to be higher no matter what for the next 15 years. So that's where for you, I would really talk through with your mortgage broker, with your lender, the different options. And you got to remember, I have like the nicest mortgage lender. He is the best heart, so he tells me honesty. He's honest with me, and there's a reason I keep going back to him. But not every lender, not every
Yeah.
broker is like that. So you got to remember, they're going to try to push you to a 30. And now I saw the other day a 40-year mortgage, 40-year term on a
Okay.
mortgage, because they're going to make the most money on that. Think about how much more interest it's going to be. They're going to make way more
That
money on that.
okay, firstly, thank you for setting me straight. Again, this is why life just gave me a gift with Wade because he knows the operations behind this and I just make it look pretty. But what Wade was talking about then, for those of us who are more like me and are still learning all of these things, is in what way you want to make payments on your house and how much money you can allot to
Mm-hmm.
pay on the house month over month, and the benefits if you can afford to do the 15-month, but also the stressor it can add if that's like stretching your budget. So then the other great takeaway from what Wade said, and I learned this firsthand with the first property and only property so far I've purchased, is to have a great lender, a mortgage lender who is in your court and not there for making a lot of money. I was very blessed. My mortgage lender was a family friend, a very good person, like Wade was saying, was working on and would lay things out for me honestly. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's what it does for the people that are interested in this. If you have someone that you trust who has knowledge in the real estate space, definitely consult them with the type of people who are going to help you select
Mm-hmm.
your home and help you get your money. And pretty much all the processes, probably inspectors, all the things. You want people you can trust.
Yeah, you want people that I wouldn't recommend just having a real estate agent
Yeah.
that you don't know. Because here's the thing, agent, lender, whatever, they're not always looking for repeat business. And so there's no advantage to necessarily take care of you. If it's somebody that knows you, that you're a friend with, or that you're family with, you're going
Yeah.
to see them still. You're still going to be friends. You're still going to see them at the family reunion. So they can't maximize their profit. They're going to make sure that you are in a position to succeed. So yeah, relational capital is huge. It really provides leverage isn't the right word for it because it sounds like then
Sure.
somebody's winning, somebody's losing, but it provides pull for them to really, really want to see you benefit rather than just seeing themselves benefit. Because here's the deal. Through the whole real estate process, it's been set up for every person in every spot of the process to make money. The lender makes money, the real estate agent makes money, and you got to remember they're salespeople. They're salespeople. They're trying to sell you something. The lender is the same thing. They get a commission based on the program that they sell to you, right? And so they're going to naturally want to sell the stuff that makes them the most money, unless, right, they are going to see you at the family reunion, and they're going to see you at Uncle Bob's funeral, and they're going to see you at Jenny's wedding, right? Then they're going to do whatever works
Yeah.
best for you.
Well, and I think
So Highly,
there's
highly
there's
recommend.
going to be people in our audience potentially who don't have connections to real estate agents, mortgage lenders at present. And this is an off the cuff question. So if we don't have a resource right now, then this is something we can look into.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
what if you're someone who doesn't really have a connection to the real estate industry right now? What would you recommend someone go and do or look for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's two things. If you are looking for yourself personally to buy a house, just for you, I would highly recommend looking at the Ramsey Network, which is Dave Ramsey's network. They have a list of qualified real estate agents and lenders in your area that have went through Dave Ramsey's training. And so what you'll have is if one of them are not treating you well, you can reach out to the Ramsey Network and they will step in and help you get it right. So you kind of have an advocate, which is a huge, $100 million corporation that's going to advocate for you because they, if they're putting their name on it, they want to see you succeed with that agent. If you are doing this as an investor, as in you're looking to get into buy properties, to either rent them out, to fix and flip, different things like that. I don't know, little dog.
Little dog.
Heather loves animals. I have a dog. Heather loves animals. And so this podcast will often be interrupted by dogs, cats. For me, maybe even a cow. I have a cow and ducks and chickens. It could be
Yes,
interrupted by
it
the
could
cow.
be interrupted by a really cute
So
hazel as well. We can only hope that we get a
that's
few
true.
feature
That's
hazels.
true. I would love that. I would love that. That actually reminds me of the interrupting cow joke, which if you know the interrupting cow joke, drop it in the comments. If you're an investor though, and you're looking to get into some lending or some real estate agents and investing, there's a club that I'm a part of called the REI Club, Real Estate Investment Club or Real Estate Investor Club. I can send you the link. If you reach out, we'll get you hooked up with them. They ask you just a couple intake questions and then they'll bring you into the group. If you've done anything at all or interested in doing anything at all. That would be another resource that I'd recommend. So there's lots of resources out there. You just got to ask, and we would love to help you find them.
Absolutely. Which is a
So-
perfect segue into the resource I was going to share is like Wade said, if those options don't work well for you, you don't have family, the Dave Ramsey network doesn't resonate well with you, which is okay if that's true, right? Like we all have different
Yeah, that's
spaces that
okay.
work well for us. If REI doesn't function well for the area you're in, there's going to be a solution. You just need people to be in your corner with you. So feel free to drop a comment if you need help. With time, we're going to hopefully have this great Love First Homes network where you can go in there and ask several people questions.
Mhm.
But for now, you have Wade and I and our love for you and our want for you to succeed. So let us know and we'll get it figured out. We'll work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, back to what kind of properties do we work with? Because that's where we started. So
We're gonna resituate.
We went a lot
Yes.
of different places, but we'll
Perfect.
go back there. Right, we talked about the FHA cap and what that meant. We're also looking for less than 2,800 square feet. Above 2,800 square feet is where you start getting into big homes that take a lot to clean, a lot to maintain, and they're just getting huge. I have a 1,400 square foot home, and sometimes it's hard to keep up on it. Just being completely honest. Thank God for my wife, but it gets hard the bigger your home gets. 5 bedroom, 3 bath maximum. Again, once you start getting into 6, 7 bedrooms, 4, 5, 6 bathrooms, you're just getting really into a luxury home. You're getting into something that's really too big for the majority of the buyers that you're going to be buying from. And then 1/2 acre max, right? Again, landscaping takes a lot of work. I have 1.25 acres, so I don't follow this rule. There's a reason why, though. I want to have a farm. I want 30 acres. I want 40 acres. I want 25,000 acres, but for most people, they don't want that. They just want a nice yard, a good backyard where they can go barbecue, maybe play some volleyball or some croquet, cornhole. That's my favorite. They don't want a lot to take care of. So 1/2 acre max. Now, these are very specific. So did I come up on these on my own? I wish. No, I'm not that smart. These are specifically from COGO Capital, which is a lending resource that you can look at using. They're great for if you're getting started. I can't say they're great for if you're already established because, they have a lot of fees, points, high interest rates. But if you're just getting started, they can be a really great resource for you. COGO Capital, I would look it up. and reach out and see what's possible. So some other less important things, more than one bedroom. Think about this. If you only have a 1-bedroom house, that means that unfortunately you have really segmented your market down to anybody. I mean, it can only be one person or really a couple. Beyond that, you don't have any room for a family or even for somebody to have roommates at that point. So bigger than just a 1-bedroom house. In town is another one. Most people don't want to live out in the country. They don't want to live, well, maybe we all, like me, have farm dreams where you live out on the top of a mountain, like Little House on the Prairie or the Waltons or something like that. But not everybody has that. So in town is important. The other key factors with that as well is then you're on city water and sewer most of the time. Whereas if you're out of town, you may be on a well. You may not have good access to power, good access to internet. You really start, internet, so it's basically a necessity now. You really start taking down your customer base who's going to eventually buy the home. And really, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for the worst house in the neighborhood. You do not want the best house in the neighborhood because you're capped by the neighborhood. You're not going to, it's not going to go up in value way above the neighborhood unless you have a super specific neighborhood that has weird things going on with it. There are neighborhoods like that. But you want the worst house in the neighborhood. That's really what you want because it can only go up from there. So
that's perfect.
That's a
Love
first
First Home phase 1 for what we're doing at the moment. As Wade mentioned just a bit ago, we've got several phases that we're hoping with time to grow into, but we're starting with the basics. And when I say we, I mean Wade's teaching me the basics, and I'm creating pretty visuals for you all to follow along on. And then I am here as a test subject with you. So if any part of it doesn't make sense, I'll be sure to come back and ask Wade about it in the podcast after I try it. And another
well, and let us know too. We can go back over things. We'd love to sit down on a call with you maybe and talk about your goals. So just reach out. Yeah,
yes,
we're
absolutely.
flexible.
And this brings up another kind of cool thing. Well, two, I would say, pretty cool things about Wade and I. So one, we live in different communities. Wade brought that up toward the beginning of this podcast. I live in Pahrump, Nevada, which is a vastly different environment, market, not totally different style because it's also a little more rural, but also with the city. So it has some similitude, but it's in a desert and Wade is not in a desert, and it's got a different market and it's a different state. And so we are trying these things in very different areas of the United States, different stuff going on. There's one cool thing. Another cool thing, Wade and I deeply love and appreciate and respect one another, but we have different philosophies for some of the stuff we do. We do not have different philosophies on our mission. We do not have different philosophies on our visions. We do not have different philosophies on our values. But some of the resources that we're most interested in or our experiences, they come from different backgrounds. Wade, as he has expressed, has a lot of his roots in Christianity, and he reads a lot of resources that align with that. I come from the roots of more of a spirituality family and some more maybe like liberal values, and we still get to exist in this space where we can think about those things together and what that means for a business and what that means for establishing foundations and growing, because we love people for being people, not for what they believe or anything beyond how good and kind and lovely humans can be. Yeah,
absolutely. The core thread is love
through everything. Yes. So we are going to move some into the journey of what just being in real estate looks like. And the first topic to cover in that space is it can be hard, y'all. As I've said, I've lost money in my first one and I'm still learning how to make the money back. But it's rewarding when you do figure it out. Wade and I are here on your side, recognizing that it can be confusing and that you need lots of resources. So what are some obstacles you, Wade, who are very good at the operations and are just so in tune with contracts and all the things that can make you succeed in real estate? What are some of the obstacles that you faced, even with that brilliant brain of yours?
Oh, well, I don't know about brilliant, but it's here. One of the first ones is capital and funding, right? And what does capital mean? Capital is just money, right? funding to buy the deals, funding to fix houses. That's ultimately every real estate investor's biggest area where it's like, oh, if I had more money available, I could do more, right? We're not all walking around with fat stacks of cash. I mean, if you are, you've
If
made
you
it.
are, DM
Congratulations.
us.
Go
No,
buy
I'm
some
just
houses.
kidding.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah,
us
DM
know.
us. We
Yeah,
accept
yeah, yeah.
donations. But most people are not walking around with fat stacks of cash. They are cash strapped. They don't have a lot. They maybe have a little bit, month to month. They might have some small savings, but honestly, the majority of people are going to be struggling to find funding and capital. So what do? What's the solution? Dig, 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 dig. Find the money, right? You got to find the money, whether it's finding a hard money lender or a private money lender, where they're not looking at your credit, they're not looking at your income, they're looking at the deal specifically, right? They're going to charge more fees. They're going to charge a higher interest rate. It's one option to get started. Maybe it's crowdfunding. I know that's really popular right now. Whether you start a Kickstarter campaign or whether you go in with multiple partners on a deal, you can crowdfund and bring money in together where you give either a revenue sharing deal or they own a certain percentage of the home as well, where really that can be a quick and easy way. Maybe you've got a rich uncle.
Heck
I don't
yeah.
know. Those are good people to go and talk to. But the first thing they're going to ask you is, what is your business plan? And so you got to have some of that stuff written out. And we'll talk about that. We talked a little bit last episode about mission, vision, core values. And in future episodes, we can dive more into, what does it look like to create a rehab business plan? But they're really going to want to know what your business plan is. So we're talking hard money, private money lending. Okay. Option number 1. Option number 2 can be crowdfunding. Option number 3, rich uncle. Option number 4, and this is if you are looking to do rentals, is that you can go the conventional route. And this is what I am doing on my personal route. Is every 2 years we buy a home. We've talked about this already, to where in 10 years we'll own 5 homes. And that's just because every 2 years you don't have to put 20% down anymore. It's not necessarily a requirement. You still will have to, if you put less than 20% down, pay what's called PMI. It's called private mortgage insurance. And it's just an extra fee that they tack on, somewhere usually between $100 and maybe $250 a month, which it's a bummer. Yeah, because that money's not going towards your principal. But, otherwise it's going towards rent and you're not getting any of that money back. So that's really where I would recommend looking for funding. Some other things would be risk. Real estate is risky, guys. Every business is risky, though. That's the thing. You could buy a house and it could be worthless tomorrow. But you could buy a car and it could be worthless tomorrow. You could go to work and get fired. There's risk in everything. I am a very risk averse person. I don't love
I did not know
risks,
that about you.
but for some reason, I am. But for some reason in real estate, I am pretty risk tolerant because I have seen it perform, right? In 2008, yes, we saw the real estate market crash, but we also saw people make a ton of money because those that were able to hold on and able to make it work, they were able to buy really, really low. And now the houses that they own in 2023, the fall of 2023, are worth a ton of money. Now we're seeing prices go down a touch right now. I don't want to lie. Prices in my area are going down a touch right now. It could possibly be a market correction. We also have a lot of seasonality here. So in the spring and summer, prices go up. And in the fall and winter, they dip back down for a while because you're not going to see the beautiful landscaping and you're going to have to plow the snow. And, you're not getting people who are coming here getting to enjoy the lake, things like that. But there are risks. And so what do you do with this? One, you have to accept that there's risk in everything. There is risk in everything. Like I said, whether you show up to a job, whether you sit and do nothing, there's risk to doing that. And so you have to decide, is the risk worth it for you? Is the payoff worth the reward? And then also, be prepared for those unexpected expenses, whether that's having some funds set aside in a savings account, whether that's having maybe a line of credit, whatever that looks like for you, be ready for some unexpected expenses, right? Heather, you had that happen where expenses just come up that you didn't expect. But it also leads to the best way to mitigate risk is to have good
Yeah.
profit margin. If you are able to make a good cushion between, what you need and where it's going to end up selling at, or what it's renting at, if your monthly cushion for rentals is good, then you can stomach some of those unexpected expenses, and it takes the risk down. That's why the money is always made on the buy. You're probably going to hear that a lot. The money is always made on the buy, because at that point, you've locked in the price of what you're going to pay. It's not like rent where it's going to go up every month. You've locked in your price. Unless you have an adjustable rate mortgage, which I would not recommend. It's great for low mortgage, low interest rate times. Over the last year, right, we've seen mortgage rates go up. Oh my gosh. My one in Spirit Lake, my interest rate's 2.75%. And here it's 5.5 at my new house. And now if I was to buy a house, it'd be 7.25%. And I have a 790 credit score. So, it's tough right now because of those. So that's why you want a locked fixed in rate. It's also a great time to buy right now, though, since the prices have dipped down. I think you talked about a buyer's market versus a seller's market. And right now it's a buyer's market. You're not seeing a bidding war where people are paying $100,000 over asking price. It's selling the same day as it's listed. Sellers are more like, hey, I want to sell it, so I'll give discounts. We'll maybe look at going at or below asking price. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was vendors. It is hard to build a network sometimes. And so that's where relationship management comes key in working with your contractors, your lender, your real estate agent. You have to have a really strong network. We dove into that some earlier, but that would be the biggest one, is just start asking, start showing up to real estate events. Start, when you see a real estate agent's card or a contractor's card, give them a call, send them an email, just start building a relationship with them. And there are relationship tools. I think one's called Relatable or something like that. I might have to look it up. It's a cool one. It tells you like how often to reach out and different things like that. Yeah.
I see relatable.me. Relatable.me. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you look it up real quick, because you probably know what it looks like
Yeah, I'm looking
visually.
it up.
But something I wanted to touch on, and it ties nicely with the whole episode, I think. Wade mentioned risk feeling like a challenge. And of course, we've talked a lot about personal capital and building up your network in the space that you want to grow a business in. I always want to tie things back also to mental health and feeling confident in yourself. So a lot of risk comes from understanding what can be controlled and what cannot be controlled. I'm not a mental health professional, so don't take this as professional advice, but if you can write out the things that you're willing to not have control over versus the things that you need to have control over, I think that's a really important either conversation or just thing to know about yourself when you're looking at what you want to do with your business in real estate. So Wade and I think we're so fortunate that we vibe pretty naturally and we communicate pretty effortlessly, but knowing each other's risk tolerance when it comes to homes is very important. So in our relationship, we've established that I pretty well trust Wade to handle the operations, and if he feels like it's a okay thing for us to budget into, I then go look at my investment budget. I get back to him and let him know what's going to work for me. He makes sure that's going to work for his investment budget as well, and then we figure that out together. If you're someone who needs to have control over the style of the home and exactly where it's located, you wouldn't want to do what Heather's doing, because that to you is a variable you need to control. But I know for me that works okay, and it's something that I trust Wade to do, and I don't need to add to my plate to micromanage or to give, I guess, more cooks in the kitchen. So I guess my takeaway from that and what Wade just said and listed out so easily is also to just really know yourself and to list out those variables for yourself so that you know you're making an okay decision for yourself that's not going to harm you, whether it's a win or a quote unquote loss, which we can always reframe as a challenge that taught us more about ourselves. That was the only thought that I needed to contribute extra, because Wade is incredible and just listed out so many informative pieces about deciding how to take this journey into real estate and important resources for securing your funding, your capital, important tidbits about risk aversion, how to control risk, things that you have to understand you can't control and how okay you are with those, and building relationships in the space, which is a big part of what Love First Homes is trying to do right now. So if you like what we're talking about, if you're learning from or have more to contribute what we're talking about, please subscribe, like, but more than anything, even if you decide that you are not going to give all of those buttons a click, leave us a comment, ask us questions, let us know who you are, because ultimately we want to be a good, very knowledgeable community in the real estate segment of this big, beautiful world.
Absolutely. And you're a relationship that we want, just like we want more relationships with contractors or lenders or agents. We want a relationship with you, whether that's you following the content, like Heather said, by liking, subscribing, sharing, whether that's just telling a friend, or whether that's just, hey, sending us a DM, and we'd love to get on a call and talk to you about your goals and figure out what you're looking for. We'd love for that. So takeaways for this episode, man, it was a great one. Again, a lot more educational, maybe less about our story than episode 0. My biggest takeaways were find relationships. I can't remember how I said it, but find relationships where they're tied to you, where they're, you're going to see them at a funeral, at a wedding, at a family, reunion or something like that. And then also the risk aversion. I mean, Heather, you really touched on that for each person that's different, and they need to list out what risks they're okay with, what things that they can be in control of versus not be in control of, and really where do they land on the risk scale? Because you can go out and it's really interesting. I know I'm going longer than I should, but Robert Kiyosaki had Grant Cardone on his podcast. I don't know if you've heard this one. And Grant Cardone came on and was talking about, your first deal should be a 200 apartment complex, 200 unit apartment complex. Oh my gosh. There is so much risk in that. Are you kidding me? What he was really trying, I think, was to get you to invest in his deals that he had lined up. But Robert Kiyosaki said, no. Just start with one. Start with one because it's less risk. So whatever your risk tolerance is, find that level and then invest according to that. So Heather, what was your takeaway?
My biggest takeaway is to pause when a police siren is going by.
Oh my gosh, I can tell you're in California. If you're in California, that wasn't meant to be a dig. I'm so sorry. I live in Idaho, so they always try to trash on Californians. My wife's from California. My stepmom's from California. We love California.
It is a little noisier here than in Pahrump. So I've been like, mute, unmute, mute, unmute. There's a plane. Okay. But my biggest takeaway from this, actually, ironically, is practice what I am preaching when we're doing this podcast, because we are so fortunate, Wade, that we have an excellent relationship. But after thinking through what you were talking about, risk aversion, and me saying, this is something that should be done, I'm like, you and I should do, I think, this risk aversion model. And maybe we can even come up with a worksheet that we can share with everyone for how we figure out it works well for us to go through this conversation. So honestly, I think my biggest takeaway is that we have a to-do item for our business homework some point soon, where we can outline our risk aversion tolerance, what we're okay with within the business, our expectations, maybe even some in the risk area, and then have that conversation together. And it would probably be pretty cool to come and talk about that conversation at a later date and to share that template we come up with.
Yeah, I agree. Risk, it always takes me back to the old game of Risk.
Yeah.
If you ever played it with the little army guys and the little numbers, you have to decide how much risk you are willing to, because you can take all of your guys and put it in this one place, and then if they lose,
you lose
screwed.
too.
So you lose too. So that's why you want to have a diversified portfolio. That's why you want to make sure that you're in a risk tolerant place that you want to be in. Again, we're not financial advisors, just educators.
Thank you all so much for listening to us. Wade, do you want to end us out? What's the word? I don't know, for this episode.
With the word for this episode is risk.
There we go.
There you go.
There we go.
Risk. Thanks for taking a risk on us, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.